as if everything we thought we knew about Jesus Christ was incomplete. Imagine a fragment of ancient text suggesting he may have had a wife. How would this revelation reshape Christianity, history, and faith as we know it? Today, we dive into the question that has sparked endless debate. Did Jesus have a wife? The life of Jesus Christ has been meticulously chronicled in the Gospels of the New Testament. Yet, these canonical texts leave many questions unanswered about his personal life. Could it be that parts of his story were deliberately omitted or lost to history? The notion that Jesus might have been married isn't new. It has surfaced time and again in historical scholarship, pop culture, and even alleged discoveries. This idea challenges the foundations of Christian theology. After all, the celibacy of Jesus has been viewed as a cornerstone of his divine mission. But is there room in history for an alternative narrative? To explore this question, we must turn to both ancient writings and modern controversies. In 2012, the academic world was rocked by the announcement of an astonishing find: a small Coptic papyrus fragment dubbed the Gospel of Jesus' Wife. The text contained just a few lines, but one stood out. Jesus said to them, "My wife." Harvard professor Karen King, who presented the fragment, clarified that it did not prove Jesus was married. Instead, it indicated that early Christians might have debated his marital status. But the mere suggestion ignited a firestorm. If authentic, the papyrus would have forced scholars to reconsider long-held assumptions about Jesus' life. Could he have been married to Mary Magdalene, as some apocryphal texts like the Gospel of Philip seem to imply? And if so, why was this detail omitted from the canonical Gospels? But skepticism mounted almost immediately. Linguistic anomalies, inconsistencies in the ink, and questions about the fragment's provenance led to intense scrutiny. Within a few years, the Gospel of Jesus' Wife was debunked as a modern forgery. The papyrus fragment, it turns out, had been skillfully crafted, using phrases copied from other ancient texts. Despite the hoax, the controversy surrounding the fragment reignited age-old debates about the historical Jesus. It forced both believers and skeptics to confront uncomfortable questions about how history is written and rewritten. Whether or not Jesus had a wife is more than an academic question. It strikes at the heart of Christian doctrine. The Church has long emphasized Jesus' celibacy as a symbol of his divine mission. Marriage, by contrast, has traditionally been seen as a human institution, one that might diminish his otherworldly focus. But what if this interpretation was shaped not by divine revelation, but by human agendas? The early Church, after all, was deeply influenced by the cultural norms of its time, including Greco-Roman ideals about chastity and purity. Some scholars argue that suppressing the idea of a married Jesus served to elevate his spiritual authority and distinguish him from ordinary men. At the center of this debate is Mary Magdalene, one of Jesus' most prominent followers. She has often been portrayed as a repentant sinner, but some non-canonical texts paint a different picture. The Gospel of Philip, for instance, describes Mary Magdalene as Jesus' companion and suggests a deep, intimate bond between them. Could this relationship have been romantic? Or was it a spiritual partnership that later traditions misinterpreted? Either way, Mary Magdalene's role in Jesus' life remains one of the most intriguing mysteries of early Christianity. The idea of Jesus having a wife gained mainstream attention in 2003 with the publication of Dan Brown's The Da Vinci Code. The novel presented a provocative theory that Jesus was married to Mary Magdalene and that their descendants survived into modern times. Though fictional, the Da Vinci Code drew heavily on historical sources and speculation. It popularized ideas from earlier works like Holy Blood, Holy Grail, and reignited public interest in alternative interpretations of Jesus' life. Critics dismissed the book as a sensationalist distortion of history, but its impact was undeniable. Millions of readers began questioning what they had been taught about Christianity. Could there be grains of truth buried in the mythology? And if so, what would that mean for believers today? If Jesus were married, would it diminish his divinity? Or would it make his message even more relatable to humanity? After all, marriage and family are central to the lives of most people. A married Jesus might offer a new way to understand his teachings about love, commitment, and sacrifice. Alternatively, does the absence of evidence suggest something more profound? Perhaps Jesus' celibacy wasn't about rejecting human relationships, but about embracing a universal love that transcends personal attachments. In the end, the question of whether Jesus had a wife is unlikely to be definitively answered. But that's part of what makes it so compelling. The gaps in his story invite us to reflect on the nature of faith, history, and humanity itself. So, did Jesus have a wife? The answer may remain hidden in the sands of history. But the real question is, how does this possibility change the way we see him and ourselves? Let us know your thoughts in the comments.